morning. It's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, after a period of relative calm, stabbing attacks strike at the heart of Israeli cities. Iran announces it has begun dismantling centrifuges as part of its commitments to the July nuclear deal reached with world powers. And later on the show, something lighter, a new film, 8 years in the making, covers the life of modern dance superstar Ohad Naharin. Good morning, I'm Yael Avi, and we begin right here in Israel, where a Palestinian man stabbed 3 people in the central city of Rishon LeZion yesterday, wounding 2 of them severely. The assailant, a 19-year-old resident of the West Bank city of Hebron, was apprehended by security forces and rushed from the scene under heavy protection amid the protests of a mob who assembled at the site calling for his blood. Now, several hours later, a 70-year-old man was stabbed in his coastal city of Netanya. The Palestinian attacker was shot by police. In this case, 2 police had to intervene to protect the attacker from an attempted public lynching. Now, yesterday's attacks broke a period of relative calm within the 67 borders after last month saw near-daily attacks around the country attributed to Muslim anger over Israel's alleged violation of the status quo at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Well, Israel succeeded through various security tactics, according to several here, to lower the frequency of attacks outside the West Bank. Inside the West Bank, the violence has continued unabated, with daily attempts to harm Israeli security personnel, settlers, and particularly in the Hebron region. Joined in studio this morning by I-24 diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning to you. With me as well, of course, I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waked.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And with us also is Dr. Raz Zimt from the Alliance Center for Iranian Studies at Tel Aviv University in the form of regional thinking. Good morning to you as well. But before anything else, let's go on the phone to our senior defense analyst Amir Oren. Amir, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael.
The yesterday's stabbings, information, what do we know security forces-wise?
Well, what we know is that it is no longer restricted to Temple Mount or to East Jerusalem. And as you pointed out, these stabbings or vehicular attacks occur either in the West Bank, particularly in the Hebron area, or in the typical middle-class neighborhoods like Rishon LeZion and Netanya. And it means that there is no center of gravity which the Israeli military can hit. Rather, the center of gravity from the Palestinian perspective is every Israeli civilian, which means that it is up to the Palestinians to decide that this is over, which is not going to happen anytime soon, probably. Is there
any possibility also for Israeli security forces to glean any kind of intelligence pre these attacks?
There is hardly any intelligence because there is no network operating here. It is probably self-inspired, right. Perhaps, as the Israelis say, there is incitement by religious leaders and others, but mostly people are taking the initiative on their own, influenced by friends, by social media, and the like. They know that there is quite a chance of being killed. They are not deterred by houses being demolished or by bodies being held by the authorities. So it's a very difficult problem for the Israeli authorities because it's a battle for hearts and minds rather than for decisive battles.
And as we know, sadly, hearts and minds are not very easily won in the Middle East. I want to thank you, Amir Oren, for joining us this morning. Ali Waked, you're with me here, asking you Hebron being the focal point over the course of the last several weeks of these, actually the place that these stabbers are coming out of, right?
Yeah, Hebron is the stronghold of Hamas in the West Bank, the main stronghold of Hamas in the West Bank on one hand. On the other hand, the tension between Palestinians of the city and the settlers is the strongest all around the West Bank. On daily life, we do not cover what is happening in Hebron, but it's not new for the people who visit Hebron, for the people who live in Hebron. It is not surprising that Hebron is taking the lead in this wave of violence, and I'm not sure that this wave will stop because, as Amir mentioned, these are lone wolves who are acting. It is true they are acting in a climate, in an atmosphere of incitement, according to the Israeli Israeli terminology, and a kind of encouragement from even the Fatah and the Palestinian Authority. Abu Mazen is still trying to see whether he can take advantage, he can have some profits of this wave of violence. For the moment, it is not working. He wants to control the flame until next week. Maybe the EU will decide to start marking the merchandise coming from the settlements, and then to see and to measure whether he has an interest to escalate the situation. I can tell you they did not appreciate yesterday stabbing in Rishon LeZion and in Netanya. As long as it happens in the West Bank against soldiers and settlers, Palestinian Authority can live absolutely. But when it comes to Israel, they know that this play to the hands of the Israeli right wing, accusing Palestinians to be part of global terror and not only against settler and against the occupation.
And against the occupation. And as we said, those two stabbings yesterday after a relative calm over the course of the last several days as we move along. Straight to Iran in its announcement that it has begun taking moves to comply with the nuclear agreement signed this summer with world powers. Tehran's atomic energy chief Ali Akbar Salehi told reporters that Iran has begun shutting down uranium enrichment centrifuges and that he expected it to meet its commitments under the July 14th deal within 2 months. Salehi added that it was important that there would be a balance in implementing the deal, signaling Tehran's stance that all sanctions against Iran should be lifted promptly. Let's take a look at the following report, break it down from there.
Iranian diplomats were back in Vienna this week due to the Islamic Republic's increasing involvement in peace talks on Syria. But it was in this European capital that the landmark nuclear agreement was signed in July, and now it appears to be moving forward. According to Iran's Atomic Energy Organization chief Ali Akbar Salehi, the Islamic Republic has started to decommission some of its uranium enrichment centrifuges at the Natanz and Fordo nuclear sites, a key provision of the accord struck with world powers. October 18th was the official adoption date of the agreement, with all parties meant to begin preliminary preparation towards implementation. For Iran, that means taking a series of specified steps aimed at reining its nuclear activities, including modifying the Arak plutonium reactor, reducing its stockpile of enriched uranium and its capacity to produce more, and providing greater access to its nuclear facilities. Another indication that Iran is abiding by its commitments is a harsh letter sent by Iranian hardliners to President Hassan Rouhani, in which 20 lawmakers protested the dismantling of centrifuges at Natanz and Fordo. The hardliners already claimed in the past that the pace of the deal's implementation is too quick and would thus hurt Tehran's interests. Their objections appear too little too late, unable to halt the unfolding developments on the ground.
And so Dr. Raz Tzim from the Alliance Center for Iranian Studies at Tel Aviv University and the Forum for Regional Thinking is here with us. And Dr. Tzim, I want to start by asking you this letter supposedly sent by the lawmakers, Iranian lawmakers, to Irani, that this is going way too fast, the dismantling. I mean, I'm just thinking that everything about this Iranian deal has always been spin. Is this spin? Are they really concerned? What is going within the regime when it comes to these first steps being taken by Iran towards the deal?
Look, I would say that, like in many other areas in Iran, there seems to be a gap between the Rouhani administration and the hardliners, but not just the hardliners, the Khamenei as well. Rouhani is eager to get forward with the nuclear issue. He knows that the Iranian public opinion becomes less and less patient.
Right.
They anticipate the economic situation to be improved. Now, the regime, on the other hand, the revolutionary guards and the hardliners are concerned, I would even say terrified, of the fact that this post-nuclear deal era will become the era of Western infiltration.
Right.
If just yesterday I heard the commander of the Revolutionary Guards in a speech in Tehran University, he was saying that the nuclear deal was actually the fourth sedition since the revolution, because the West, and especially the United States, would like to use this deal in order to infiltrate both economically and culturally into Iran. So they're really concerned of this.
Which, of course, I mean, it will happen eventually. Some form of infiltration, definitely of the money, with all due respect. But concerned in terms of the ideology, I'm asking, though, when we're looking at these deals, when it comes to, all these notions that Iran has already supposedly started, supposedly has also, backed over a deal or has done something wrong when it comes to the deal. What can we glean from that? If they're moving along, the Iranians, they still can sell it to their people, right?
They can sell it to the people, but the most important thing is the economic issue.
Right.
And as I said several times before, there is a huge question whether Rouhani can deliver his promise to improve the economic situation, even if and when the sanctions are removed, because the economy in Iran suffers from structural problems. So it's not easy to say, well, the sanctions are going to be removed, there's going to be a lot of money flowing into Iran,
right,
and all the economic problems are going to be removed. No, that's not the case. So as you probably know, the parliamentary elections are due in several months, then a year and a half later, the presidential elections. So he doesn't have much time. He wants to improve the economics, and right now.
Right now, in that respect. Ali, I'm asking you because we're looking at that happening straight a week after the Syrian talks in Vienna, which are clearly lumped together. I'm thinking of promises that were made about this. First of all, it seems clear that this deal is happening. This deal is underway.
This deal is happening, and I think that in a very controversial way, the fact that the Revolutionary Guard are so involved in Syria, in Yemen, in Lebanon, will encourage them at the end of the day to accept any equation that will be brought by President Rouhani. It is true that they are so vocal to criticize the deal, but they understand that the sanctions have two goals. The main goal is to try to recover the Iranian economy, that the Iranian public is so aware of how worst it was in the last days. And on the other hand, they need this money in order to continue investing in Yemen, to continue investing in Lebanon and in Hezbollah. So if they are with the deal, it's not that the hardliners changed their ideology and changed their suspicious nature vis-a-vis the West. In Iran, there is one paradigm, is everything comes from the West is against the revolution. But on the other hand, they need this money in order to keep investing. Iran is suffering in Syria. Iran is suffering in Yemen. And Iran see Hezbollah is not in the best shape. On the other hand, last week we published here that Iran restarted investing in the Islamic Jihad after months of tension between the Islamic movement, the Palestinian Islamic movement, and the Iranian leadership, because of Islamic Jihad refusing to adopt Iran's position in the Yemenite crisis and in Syria. And the Revolutionary Guard understand that they need to have much cards, and investing in the Islamic Jihad means money, and money should come from somewhere, and the sanctions will be one of the instruments to bring money back to the apparatus of the Revolutionary Guard.
Where do you stand now, actually, with the lifting of the sanctions in terms of the implementation?
There are stages, so
right,
there's still the IAEA has to present a report on the progress of the restrictions and how Iran is complying by the deal. So we still have to wait basically till December, and things can happen by December.
Yeah, by December. But speaking of those steps implemented and by December, and I'm glad that we have Tal Shalev with us, because speaking of that, looking just at Israel, looking at all that's happening right now, a headline as such, Netanyahu himself has given up on dismantling the deal. Has he, or has he not?
Well, I wouldn't talk about Netanyahu dismantling the deal. It seems like Netanyahu has come to terms with the deal. How do we know that? We know that by the fact that last week the Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon started official negotiations with the U.S. administration on the so-called compensation package, right, security compensation package for Israel. So that, and up until now, Netanyahu has refused to do so. This is a sign that he has started to come to terms with the deal. But has he come to terms with what he can be, what the international community and specifically what the United States should be doing about this deal? No. He will be meeting President Obama next week, and from Netanyahu's point of view, the Iranian issue is definitely still on the table, and he wants to make sure that the Americans and other actors in the international community make sure that Iran doesn't cheat. Israel will be doing as much as it can to show that Iran is cheating. And it also wants to target, and this is something that has also already been discussed between administration officials and Israeli officials, how legislation can target the Iranian proxies, how can the United States now continue to treat the other problems that were not dealt with in the Iran deal, such as Iran's support of terror, specifically Hezbollah. There are moves trying to enact legislation against funding of Hezbollah, to try and combat the funding of the terror groups, and that is still on the table. So he may have come to terms with the deal, but he has definitely not come to terms with the Iranians at large.
At large. And, you know, the Israel-Iran component that is very, very big, because over the course of the last several days, I think we've seen several headlines speaking of what Netanyahu thinks of the Iranians. There's this headline that came out, I think it was the other day, I think it was yesterday, about Iran supposedly being technologically almost as advanced in Israel. I'm wondering with you, Dr. Zimt, if you saw that. And that coming from a very high security chief in Israel. What does that mean?
I say that, and I think the head of the intelligence military branch is right that technologically Iran has made a very huge progress. But I would say that most of its scientific technological progress has been made in areas which have connections to the military issue, nuclear capabilities, cyber. Missiles, but we should not overlook the fact that every year between 150 to 180,000 young Iranians who come out of universities are leaving Iran because of unemployment, because of they don't have any future in Iran. Right. So yes, there are technological progress, but in still,
the branches of security and not translated
usually
into
in the branch
the
of
economical
security
gains of the
because
people.
there's still not enough money to invest into technology in Iran.
Now, can Iran, though, when we're looking at all these parameters, putting aside for a second, you know, who's against this deal, can Iran progress? And Ali, that's due, because all of this seems to be happening now. Can it progress all these proxy wars in the region, specifically Syria, which I think is what the Americans are expecting?
I think that they can now. The question is what would be the price in continuing supporting all these proxy groups and wars in the region. At the end of the day, I think that the decision is in the hand of the conservatives and mainly Khamenei. Khamenei have a deep belief that the Saudi family will not be quiet until trying to dismantle any point of influence of Iran in the Middle East, and they understand that it is almost a zero game between them and between the Saudis. This is the dilemma of the conservatives in Iran. On one hand, they don't like the nuclear deal. On the other hand, they understand that in order to keep maintaining this influence in the region, they should at least calm one big issue with which the Iranians were dealing, and it is the nuclear deal. Of course, they will be keeping supporting Syria. They will keep supporting the Hezbollah. They are trying to renew their connections with the Islamic movement inside the Palestinian territory, in which they have some tension because of the Syrian issue. And I think at the end of the day, no matter how the West try to prove that Rouhani is something different, unfortunately, Rouhani is not the main actor in the Iranian scene.
In the Iranian scene, which we all know. Finally and lastly, Tal Shalev, I saw this fascinating report this morning about the possibility of Iran and the United States actually reaching full agreements and shaking hands, so to speak, by 2017. How afraid is the Israeli administration of that?
Well, the Israeli administration is very much afraid of that, but I would remind that on the way there is elections, and that could definitely change the course of any estimation or any prediction we have about the Iranian-U.S. relationship. Right. If the Republicans take power, I don't think they will be disregarding the deal. I think they will be complying by the deal, but they will definitely have to stand by their campaign promises and not rush into any more improvement of the relations.
The deal, any kind of reaching, an agreement that's basically,
And by the way, also listening to Hillary Clinton, she does not necessarily have exactly the same foreign policy ideas as Barack Obama. I do not necessarily see this actually happening, these predictions. Of course, there's there is an outlook that this could happen, but I wouldn't bet on it at this point.
At this point in time, that said, that deal is going ahead, as we all know and see. I want to thank you all for being with me this morning as we move along. 2 days after a Russian passenger jet crashed in Egypt's Sinai Desert, killing all 224 passengers and crew on board, a war of words is being waged over the likely cause of the tragedy. The airline operating the plane, Metrojet, claims the passenger jet came down due to external factors, saying no technical failures or human errors could account for why the Airbus 321 would have broken up in mid-air, as investigators have said has happened. In contrast, a source in the committee analyzing the flight records determined that according to initial research of the plane's debris and black boxes, it was not struck by an object of some sort. The announcement came a day after Egyptian officials ruled out the possibility that the plane was down by a missile, as jihadists affiliated with ISIS have boasted. This was later repeated by the U.S. Director of National Intelligence. This conundrum is all reported in the following piece. Let's take a look and break it down.
A terror attack or an accident. As the investigation into the crash of Russian airliner KGL 9268 continues, so too does the dispute regarding the causes of the disaster in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula on Saturday. A source in the committee analyzing the flight recorders said Monday that there are no records showing that the plane was struck from the outside, nor evidence that the pilot made a distress call before the plane vanished off the radar.
As you know, this is an area in which clashes occur periodically between the Egyptian armed forces and militants of various terrorist groups. Therefore, as you work on the ground, I ask you to exercise all necessary caution.
But officials in the company whose plane crashed have ruled out technical failure or human error and said external factors caused the disaster.
Yes, under a tragic multi-level contingency, when several systems fail along with some other accompanying factors, that indeed could lead to a catastrophe. But in that case, the aircraft would break up through hitting the ground. Aircrafts cannot break up in the air because of a failure of any systems.
However, the director of U.S. National Intelligence, James Clapper, said Monday he knew of no direct evidence of terror activity regarding the crash. Clapper was also asked about possible involvement of the Islamic jihadist group in the incident.
Does ISIS have the ability to shoot down an airliner?
It's unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out.
All the 224 people on board were killed when the plane crashed 22 minutes after it took off from Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh airport on its way to St. Petersburg, Russia. Earlier this week, Egyptian and Russian officials dismissed the possibility of a terror attack, despite the announcement of an Egyptian militant group affiliated with the Islamic State that it brought down the plane in response to Russian airstrikes in Syria.
Let's go straight to Cairo. We're joined by I-24 News contributor Jake Wirtschafter. Jake, good morning to you. Doesn't seem to go away, this conundrum of what made the plane come down. And at this point in time, let me start by this. What are the Egyptians saying?
Well, the Egyptians are kind of pointing to the fact that it's Kogel Mafia against everybody else. I mean, the only people that say that there was an external influence is the holding company that makes profit from selling seats on those airplanes.
Right.
And we've got the black boxes now. And the source on the investigating team handling them has said that initial examinations show that the plane was not struck by a missile. So we're looking at what brought down the plane. Obviously, it's a tragedy. The Egyptians are also pointing out to the fact that the same aircraft had an incident in 2001 on a trip from Beirut to Cairo at another Egyptian airport when its tail hit the ground during the landing. I mean, this plane has been rocked about a little bit.
Right, to put it mildly.
And the wife of the co-pilot said her husband constantly complained about the aircraft. The one thing I would say about the Egyptians, where their story has shifted a little bit, is that this thing about the pilot making a radio distress call to the air traffic control in Sharm el-Sheikh seems not to have happened.
Oh, okay. I think the problematic point of this is the three differing versions, almost like a Rashomon. Ali Waqid, exactly. Ali Waqid's still with us in studio. When it comes to it seems fairly obvious that this plane, sadly so, is becoming political capital for everybody who has a stake in it for different reasons. But when it comes to the notion that this might have been shot down by extreme groups, ISIS-affiliated groups in the Sinai.
Yeah, when we talk with jihadists in the Gaza Strip who had excellent connections with their brothers in Sinai,
inside Sinai, across the border,
and when we follow the tweets of the leaders of the governance of Sinai in the Islamic State, they are saying this is a war of brains. We did not use bullets. We did not, and they hinted they did not shoot a missile. And one answered me and said that this might be our September 11 operation, hinting that they might try to hijack the plane or oblige the pilot to crash with the plane. And they are in their accounts they are talking about a war of brains. This time we use brains and we did not use missiles. We were creative, and I think that the plane, there is a unanimity that the plane did not crash by itself, and it was not a technical issue. Something happened, and the Islamic State is promising that in the coming days that will be throwing shadow on what exactly happened and how they contributed to the explosion. Here. Absolutely, to the explosion of the plane.
I mean, it's sad and tragic because at the end of the day, it's 224 people. Out of them, I think approximately dozen or 17 children. That's the time to go to Moscow, actually, where we're joined by Ivan Nechepurenko, journalist for the Moscow Times. Ivan, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. At the end of the day, in Russia itself, bodies keep coming in, more of them coming in today into St. Petersburg. Any outcry from the people? Because it seems like every side of the investigation is trying to pull for their gain.
Well, I think at the beginning it was more emotional. Now people are becoming more rational, and they see that technical reason might not be the most plausible one. So you have more and more conspiracy theories. You have more and more politicians using it for their own advantage. So it's just like you said, it's becoming a political asset, unfortunately.
Any outcry from the families of the members killed on that plane when it comes to, the Russian airline company?
Well, of course, people blame the poor state of the Russian aviation industry as a whole. But again, as I've said, the more unclear it becomes, the more people begin to think of other reasons.
And more rumor and supposition comes up, sadly. Ivan, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. All the time we have, and hopefully we will not bring you rumor and supposition. Rather, looking forward to the leaders of Japan and South Korea holding their first ever meeting to try to overcome the World War II tensions. Yes, nearly 70-some years on. Stay with us. We'll take a closer look. First, the news. Good morning. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, the place you just simply must be on this November. Lovely. See? Ruthie Sinai, I-24 News, senior news editor with us in studio. Also, Daniel Roth with us. Yes, this is the secret that we will reveal later on. Ruthie here, although replacing Ami Kaufman, who's on assignment apparently now somewhere in Canada. Really? Yes, wow. I think he's investigating in depth all the pies that if you've checked his Facebook feed, yes, I'm a little upset, but we'll deal with that when he comes back.
He's trying Nanaimo bars.
He is. What are the Nanaimo bars?
Nanaimo is a city on Vancouver Island. A city is an overstatement. Okay. They have Nanaimo bars. I was there this summer and failed to find a Nanaimo bar.
What's in
it's chocolate. It's food. It's chocolate. It's some kind of bar of Nanaimo chocolatey
Nanaimo
goodness.
Is not a small animal we killed or something like that.
No,
okay.
It's not. It is a place.
It is a place. Nanaimo is a place. And this is the time and place to move to Ruthie Sinai with the news you missed while scanning the headlines.
Well, since Daniel mentioned animals, or you mentioned animals.
Yes, please,
our first story is headlined, Israel howling over proposal to deport street cats.
Wait, I'm getting myself ready.
Yes, and this is straight out of the Washington Post. As you can see, the photo is of the Damascus Gate in the old city of Jerusalem, and the story is as follows.
Please.
The Minister of Agriculture, Uri Ariel, who is a religious Jew, has asked for a budget of 4.5 million shekels, which is about $1 million, in order to transfer cats,
ding ding, okay,
either males or females, rather than spaying them or neutering them, because
or males or females, not both,
well,
just
no,
one
need
gender,
to, because you know you don't want them to.
That's a bit like Sophie's Choice. Okay, but
yeah.
A little bit,
So the deal is that under Jewish law, it says about animals to go forth and multiply, and Uri Ariel, being a religious Jew, says, spaying or neutering them is out of the question. So we have to export them or deport them, or, Now, I don't know how they would do it, little parachutes maybe in a sense.
There's a little boat that is leaving today, right behind us.
Out of the Yaffa
Are the cats
port.
leaving?
Yeah.
No, okay, they're not leaving.
Jonah's whale and the
Jonah's
cats.
whale, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Tzipi Livni, former foreign minister, posted a picture of herself and her cat, said she's not getting a passport for the feline. No way. And I was reading up on this, and I found out that Korea had the same idea of exporting its male or female cats, except then they had a plague of rats. So
and then
cats,
you need the
rats.
Yeah.
Let me ask one question, though.
Please.
Which Korea?
The South.
The South.
Yes.
But first of all, but the reason to transfer the cat, why don't we like the cats?
Oh, it's just a lot of them.
Just a lot of them. Just too many of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got two at home. Yeah. I personally did pack their bags this morning. They've got one of them is American, one of them is Israeli. But
they're going where?
I don't know. I left them at the airport.
I see.
So they're waiting there.
South Korea.
Exactly. Yes. Moving along. Only in Israel, folks.
Yes. Only in Israel.
Yes.
Here's a very interesting, I think, a lovely story, but maybe not everybody would agree. Ben Gurion, turns out, this man,
the man with the vision,
who was hardly a hunk. I mean, he was sort of short and kind of messy hair.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with short people.
No, true. But look, his hair. I mean, he
the hair.
He had
a
lot of bad hair days.
But
anyway,
cute. There are some women that
Okay, so this specific woman, it turns out, a woman by the name of Rega Klappholz, who was a Viennese medical student, had an affair with Ben Gurion. And their love letters and telegrams are now being auctioned off. Now,
how very Kennedy-esque.
Very, and this was in the 1930s. Some of them, by the way, were in Yiddish, which is, okay, so for instance, there's one, Dear Beloved Rega, it's hard for me to accept the fact that I'm in Europe and so far away from you. However much you want me to come to Vienna, maybe I want to more, and so on and so on. Anyway, so Ms. Klappholz packed her bags and came to Palestine in 1934, and imagine her surprise when she knocked on Ben Gurion's door.
And
Mrs. Ben Gurion, Mrs. Paula Ben Gurion, who was a formidable figure.
Very formidable figure with a very bizarre recipe for something with yogurt. Seriously. His favorite
Maybe
dish was something called...
bars.
No, he called it like kuchmuch. You don't know about the kuchmuch?
I know, I do.
Kuchmuch, exactly.
Anyway, that was the end of that affair. He apparently, though, Ben Gurion had two other mistresses, according to his biographers, later on in life.
What is it about us women, Ruthie? I want to understand that no matter what you look like, if you're a man in power, we'll go for you.
Yeah.
Power, okay.
I have to say, though, it's nothing compared to his right-hand man, Brill Katz-Nelson, who's literally buried between his wife and his mistress, who knew about each other. And it's
for your daily dose of old Jewish romanticism. Tune in to Moget.
Sounds very civilized to me.
Okay. Yes, moving along.
All right, something very uncivilized. The Guardian did a year-long investigative project and found that trafficked migrants are working on all sorts of Irish fishing trawlers off of Cork, off of Galway, some of the most beautiful places in the world. I was just heartbroken to read it. Ghanaian, Filipinos, Egyptians, Syrians, you name it, they're smuggled in. They're underfed, they're worked horrible hours, and they're afraid to complain because they're afraid they'll be deported.
It's Europeans' vacation.
truly.
Yeah.
Really, really just depressing story.
No, very much so.
Okay, now we go to a less, actually I should have put this next to the cats, because
Yes.
we've got this endangered Sumatran rhino.
Okay.
This is the smallest version of the rhinos that exists, and he's on the verge of extinction, this fellow whose name is Harapan, which is, yeah, we've got this footage. He's just small, as you can see.
Yeah.
His name is Harapan, which means hope, except there was no hope for him to mate in the Cincinnati Zoo, where he was being kept.
Right.
They tried to mate him with his sister, but it turned out to be, very bad idea, incestuous idea. Anyway, so they shipped him off.
How bad? Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to know. Anyway,
Okay.
so they shipped him off to Sumatra, 16,000 kilometers away, with a handler and a dog, vet, and so on. And he's there now, and they're trying to get him to mate. The reason they've become, so extinct.
I was about to say, is it because we put them in zoos?
Poaching, because their horns are very much prized in Chinese medicine. And you could say that the zoo in Cincinnati was in the horns of a dilemma, and meow, never mind, that was very bad. Okay. Back stateside in the US of A. So this story on Fox News, this was a very bad idea. Trick but no treat.
Suicide bomber costume?
Yeah, he came in
Fort Bragg where they had shootings?
Yeah, he came in covered in a suicide vest.
Belt,
fake, of course.
Right.
Alert at the base, and
that's
a
for
lot
the
of emergency response teams, and
it's the morning show. I'm only going to initial it, but it's one of those WTF stories. Yeah. Entirely that.
Okay.
Entirely that. Daniel Roth is having a great morning. But
do we have time for one more?
Yes, we do.
Okay, The Atlantic.
The Atlantic.
Okay, so if I were giving a headline to this,
yes,
I would say that this is a nightmare with a K. Okay. But that's just me.
And that's why you're in the Big
That
Giants.
is why you're a
right.
senior editor.
That's right.
Yes.
So, the story is as follows. Australia is a Commonwealth country, and the Queen is still head of state, nominally. And the current Australian Prime Minister, he's new in his job, his name is Malcolm Turnbull.
Right.
He's decided to do away with all these dames and knights in the annual honours list. However, and this is on the way to becoming a republic. He is of the Republican camp. His predecessor, however, Tony Abbott, who was no stranger to controversy, he reinstated these knighthood titles a year or two ago, much to everybody's chagrin, and even knighted Prince Philip, the Queen's for his service to Australia, and of course he was the butt of much criticism and jokes about this.
So now away with the dames and the knights. I mean, to me, do you agree with me? Off with the dames, off with their dames. Ruthie, you are locked in studio because you are so much fun as we move along. It's never too late to say you're sorry. But that's the lead into the next story. The leaders of South Korea and Japan broke an extended diplomatic freeze Monday with a rare summit at which they agreed to push for swift resolution of historical disputes that have strained the ties for decades. It was the first one-on-one meeting ever between South Korean President Park, I'm going to really have a hard time pronouncing this, Park Geun-hye, and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And the two said they would step up efforts to settle the thorny issue of the so-called Korean comfort woman forced to work in Japanese military brothels during World War II. The two leaders also took part Sunday in a trilateral summit with Chinese Premier Li Jinping, the first meeting of its kind in more than 3 years. Let's first take a look at the following report of Gabi Weiniger about this historical meeting and break it down.
50 years of freezing cold relations, and finally, a crack in the ice. South Korea and Japan held their first formal bilateral talks since both their current leaders took office, looking to bypass an acrimonious wartime history in the face of an increasingly assertive China. For Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Monday's meeting is a diplomatic victory.
With this as a foundation, I would like to make further effort with President Park Geun-hye to build a new future-oriented era for Japan and South Korea.
But for South Korea, there remains a major point of contention: Japan's colonization of the peninsula, and in particular the issue of comfort women, Koreans forced into prostitution in Japanese military brothels. President Park Geun-hye says compensation for these women is central to improving ties with Japan, and that so far, Japan has failed to atone for its wartime atrocities.
I think the most important thing in diplomacy is trust. I hope the summit can be truthful and take the opportunity to settle the matter, heal the wounds of the past, and help better bilateral relations.
Japan says the issue has already been settled, legally in a diplomatic treaty in 1965 and emotionally by a government apology in 1993.
Regarding the issue of comfort women, I believe we should not leave behind difficulties for future generations as we try to build a future-oriented cooperative relationship.
Whether or not Japan is ready to make concessions to satisfy Seoul's demands, the summit, pushed for by key mutual ally the United States, is a step forward in normalizing relations. While it may not bridge all the troubled historical and territorial waters between the two neighbors, it marks an important moment for both towards a more pragmatic partnership.
Going live for Straight to Seoul, South Korea, where we're joined by Asia News Weekly podcast host Steve Miller. Steve, good morning to you. Long time in the making?
Yeah, it's something that has been on the books for a while, really needed to take place. But I think the overall thing to keep in mind is that while it was significant that these three leaders met, especially over the weekend with the trilateral meeting and then on Monday with Park and Abe, the foreign ministers and defense ministers have met continuously. So it's hard for me to feel excited about this meeting because the bar was set so low that simply having the meeting was considered a success. And I think that if we hadn't seen finance ministers and other ministers meet on a continuous basis over the last few years, then it would be more of a significant type of meeting.
No, very true. But I have to tell you, speaking to somebody in the Middle East, just having a meeting sometimes is really exciting.
And that is true.
Yeah, no. And especially if we're looking at past histories of both countries. Very, very true. Daniel Roth with me in studio. Financially, though, does this mean anything?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but it is significant. You're talking, these three countries together make up about a fifth of the global economy. Right. So it's not a small deal, and it's, when we're talking about this meeting and we're talking about how exciting it isn't exciting. Not many people are.
Neither. I'm not jumping out of my seat here,
right.
But yeah.
There's not much coverage on it, and that's because exactly
as Steve said,
it's the bar was set pretty low. It was just kind of getting together. They haven't met in 3.5 years. These heads of state, and now they're meeting. What actually pushed them to the table, because things like the comfort women and territorial disputes have sort of been keeping them apart. What pushed them to the table was a little bit of a lag in economic realities for some of these countries.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
No. At the end of the day, and Steve, if you're still with us on the line, I'm just wondering, this animosities that go back, what is it, 70-some years?
Yeah. Plus.
Plus. I mean, you go back to 1910 with the annexation of South Korea by Japan, even going back further with the first Sino-Japanese War.
No, with the Sino-Japanese War. But 1890s. Slight, but still, a slight progress. But it takes a century. Okay, it takes a century. I want to thank you all for being with me this morning. Not exciting, but interesting.
Yes.
Let's take a look at it that way. When we get back, something entirely different, a film 8 years in the making, one of the most prolific artists in Israel, Mr. Gaga. It's a new documentary about choreographer and arts director of the Batsheva Dance Company, Ohad Naharin. Stay with us. Welcome back. It is still Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News. And you should have stayed with us, not because I'm going to dance, but because I'm going to speak of dance. See, that was a nice transition.
Why don't you dance?
Actually, it's a good question. That is a great comeback.
And Batsheva is not so far from here.
Not so far. I did dance for many years. I was a terrible dancer. But, hold on, there's a lead coming up. This is our new topic. I love this man already, Barak. Mr. Gaga is a documentary film. It tells the story of renowned Israeli choreographer and artistic director of the Batsheva dance company, Ohad Naharin. And you don't have to be Israeli to know of Ohad Naharin or Batsheva, one of the most renowned, actually, dance companies in the world. Now, Ohad Naharin, who for many is one of the world's foremost innovators of modern dance, there's a movie about him. And in a movie that was 8 years in the making, because usually that, sadly, is what it takes to make a documentary film.
Not true, not true, not true.
Well, you know what? You're going to prove me wrong, maybe. The creators used intimate rehearsal footage, extensive, unseen archive materials, and stunning dance sequences to paint a portrait of the man and his work. Now, I'm very happy to be joined in studio by the film's producer, Barak Hyman. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
I will dance at the end of this.
Will you now?
No, I promise.
I'll hold you up to this.
You will see. But first, I want us to take a look at Mr. Gaga, the trailer, and then we'll break it down.
The years in the kibbutz, it's something I always missed growing up. We slept together, we washed together, we ate together. I don't think they've met someone that at such a late time in his life can still become a dancer.
הופעה ראשונה, מגיעים 100 איש, חלק יוצאים באמצע. עוד יום ועוד יום, ואין קהל. פרט משדר ביטחון מוחלט. כאילו זה פצצה.
First of all, that's the secret to everything in life.
Always.
Always, always. I don't,
I think you know what you're talking about.
No, whenever you're in doubt, just fake
years.
it. Just make sure that this is great. Okay, Barak, tell me, because I come from film, and I want to ask you this to begin with. I think to try and sell a film about dancing is something that's hard to do.
Yes and no.
Okay, tell me why.
First of all, also in Israel, films about dance were extremely successful. More than 100,000 people came to Lev Cinema to see the film about Pina Bausch by Wim Wenders just a couple of years ago. I don't aim to bring 100,000 people to the cinema.
I'm not saying that you're not Wim
But I
Wenders.
wish as many people as possible will come to watch our film, Mr. Gaga, in Lev Cinema, which is playing nowadays in Herzliya, Even Yehuda, Hod HaSharon, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Ramat Gan, all over the place.
Completely. Now, tell me about the making of this film. Still, 8 years.
Yes, and you said that I'm the producer of the film.
Right.
But even more complicated than that, I'm the brother of the director.
Yes.
And this is why...
Although it's working for the Coen brothers.
Yes, it is.
Okay, it's working for the Coen brothers.
Thank you for the compliment. But we almost released this film a couple of years ago. We thought we have a nice film, good film. It's about time for people to see it and to enjoy. Luckily, my brother Tomer felt that it wasn't good enough. And then we kept on going, we kept on shooting, we kept on editing. We did a very successful Kickstarter campaign together with Natalie Portman, who was leading it. And that's how we found the budget to go to New York to film the crew of Ohad, the dancers who danced with Ohad, for Ohad, back in the 80s. And then all different kind of stories came up. And then we thought, okay, so we have to restructure the whole film. Then Ohad became a father at the age of 57 years old. Many things have changed in his life.
And a great bit of the story also.
And then what happened that finally, after 3 years of struggle, Ohad allowed us to get all the archive private footage of him from his early childhood in the kibbutz, and then later on we found archive footage from the time he was in the army.
Which he did not okay at the beginning of the process.
Exactly. So altogether, it became a different film.
Yeah, after 8 years, you tired him off, so to speak.
Exactly.
But there's that. But the idea of making a film about Ohad Naharin, why? Not just because he's, and let me rephrase this, not just because he's a great choreographer and a great artist.
No, of course. All of our films we have made, directed, produced so far are always coming from a very, very personal place.
Right.
So in this case, our cousin, Nomi Bloch-Fortis, she used to be the co-artistic director of Batsheva Dance Company, and she invited my brother Tomer, like 20 years ago it was, to see a Batsheva Dance Company. 25 years ago, sorry. 1990, it was Kir. It was a big show, amazing. He didn't want to go. We are coming from a very tiny village in the north of Israel, and for us, dance is something so, you know, bizarre and boring.
Yeah.
But he fell in love with the creation of this guy, Ohad Naharin, and ever since then, I think I've seen all the shows by Batsheva Dance Company, and he just wanted to make a film about this guy. And finally,
what is so interesting about Ohad Naharin?
What is so interesting about Ohad Naharin? I think he managed somehow in his art, in his creation, to combine between being very, very intellectual and philosophical and emotional and sometimes abstract, and between being very communicative, energetic, and talk to you,
eye level.
Eye level, and it creates a form of art which touches so many different kind of people. I can tell you, confession,
Please.
I'm not a big dance lover, okay? And it was important for me that this film will be able to communicate with people like me who are not coming from the fundamentalist
That's
place
what you want as a filmmaker of every film. You want to bring something new to the audience.
But more than that, even though I'm not such a crazy dance lover, every time I go to see Batsheva performances, I'm blown away.
No, it truly is one of the most successful and rightfully so experts of this country is the Batsheva company.
And this is why maybe we have the privilege to premiere the film just 2 weeks ago in the BFI London Film Festival, which is a very, very big, important, prestigious festival. It's going to be shown in IDFA, which is the International Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam, which supposed to be the biggest, most important documentary.
And it's Amsterdam.
And it's Amsterdam.
Always good. Yeah.
Later on, 27th of November, it's the opening night film of Festival di Popoli in Florence. And then again, nowadays, all over Israel in Lev Cinema, Mr. Gaga and
Mr. Gaga, by the way, is a great name. Why Mr. Gaga?
Because he created the movement language called Gaga. Which is very, very successful all over the world, and he's teaching it his dancers, but also people like me and you, who are not professional dancers.
Emphasizing.
Emphasize you, okay, yes.
So this is why, and Mr. Gaga, it was before Lady Gaga, I want to say.
We have
so she was actually quoting him.
Yes, she's actually, she plagiarized him.
Exactly.
In many ways.
Exactly.
The radio, we shall not forget, Queen. But 8 years, you and your brother, is it true, obviously you're not going to tell me the truth entirely, but is it true about Ohad Naharin that, I've had friends who danced for him, I have friends who were in Batsheva many, many, many years ago, but that he's hard to work with also, he's a hard man.
It's hard to work with him, it doesn't mean he's a hard man. It's hard to work with demanding artist to know what he wants. I can say that maybe because he became a father, maybe because he realized things about himself throughout the years, is much less hard to work with than what people tend to think.
Yeah.
He was very hard to work with back in the 80s in New York when he had his own company. And the people who used to dance for him, they talk about it loud and clear in the film. But actually, we've been spending so many days in the rehearsal room of Batsheva Dance Company in the recent few years. I have to say that actually I became much, much softer. And the truth is that so many people around the world coming to Tel Aviv, to the ensemble of Batsheva or the leading group of Batsheva, and they fight for the right to be dancer in Batsheva in Ohad, while everybody else are moving out of this crazy country. So it means that at the end of the day, it's a good learning experience.
It's a good thing. And listen, if Ohad Naharin is the man who's going to save Israel, Amit Kling and I are going to dance. Barak Hyman, phenomenal. You're locked in studio with us because we are moving to the next item. I want to say, children do make us soft, although I had kids and people still think I'm a bitch. That said, that said,
I will say nothing.
You will say nothing. He knows that very well.
I will say nothing on subject.
But Amit Kling with you. Amit Kling, editor of the culture section of Time Out magazine. Yes, you are. And also with the rep review here.
Here we go.
Please.
Okay, so you know who's back?
Who's back?
Our good friend Rachel Dolezal.
No, she's Chinese now. Got you there.
Phenomenal. Thank you for this. No, but she went on television and she said, "I was born white."
Ta-da!
I know, and you know what? You know what?
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Turns that on that show, it was enough for her to get a standing ovation, which is just insane to me.
It's truly American, though.
Look,
I should not have said that.
I'm sorry. I was born white. There's one person who gets to say I was born black, and that's Michael Jackson, and he's dead.
God, yes.
Yes, Rachel. Though I don't look. I don't.
No, it's
get it.
the whole story in itself. But I think
I think it was the best story of the year.
One of the best stories.
Insanity-wise.
Insanity-wise, no. There's a woman in Florida, an older woman in Florida.
Florida doesn't count. I was talking about Planet Earth.
Planet Earth. Very true. Yeah. Go ahead. And moving on.
All right, and this is just a wonderful little bit that came off. It was published a couple of weeks ago. It just went viral yesterday. It's called "Trump Kid for President." Let's take a look.
Let's take a look.
Trump Kid for President.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States. I will get more Latinos than anybody else. I have thousands of Latinos that work for me right now. I'm a very smart person. I went to the best school. I'm a very smart person. Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women? I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct.
Yeah, the big... Yeah.
Okay, now what's wonderful about this bit is that none of it is written. It's all real Trump quotes.
No, every single word of it.
Every single word is actual Trump quotes, just given to a child. I think that's kind of puts...
I see, the thing is, I'm almost hoping that he takes the nomination and runs.
Flops the hell out of it.
Yeah, no, if either flops the hell out of it, but imagine Trump as the president of the leader of the free world. Yes, people.
No, I don't.
Don't imagine. Yes.
No, I don't want to imagine it, nor does it make too much sense to me, but I think his quotes put in the mouth of a child really put the context. What kind of, like, a child is a perfect mouthpiece
for Donald Trump? Definitely.
Yes, all right. Let's stay in the Republican Party with our acquaintance Paul Ryan.
Yes, Paul Ryan, finally.
What he said was that he's going to... he has this depressing ritual, Gawker is boring. He sleeps on a cot in his office.
Why?
I don't know, because
I'm such a hard worker, and people need to understand that I spend so much time in my office.
I think it's just sad.
It's very sad. It's very sad. Have we seen the cot? Is it maybe like...
We have not seen the cot. The cot... No, but I think maybe it's also sort of a PR twist on the whole... There was that scene made by Chris Christie.
Yes.
About the green room he was given in the debate. I think it's kind of a twist on that. Paul Ryan, man of the people, slips on a cot.
Republicans like to be very comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. Right. And...
All right. Yet more Gawker. This time Halloween themed.
Wow.
All right, here goes. I think this is better than all of the celebrity Halloween debates. This is Jackie O's way weird Halloween costume in the 1960s.
That's Jackie O underneath there?
As I think a leather ghost.
No, as an Afghan woman.
I don't think they were aware of Afghan women in the 60s.
They were not. I don't think they were aware of Afghanistan in the 60s. Not if you were American. But that said, what is that?
I think it's I think it's a leather ghost.
I think Barak Hyman here is like
it's a leather ghost. You know what this is? I think this is the smiling body bag from Twin Peaks.
It is the smiling body bag. Yes.
How come you have such an amazing English?
That is a weird question to be asked.
Such a weird question, but we can't let go of the cats. Cats, folks. We've got 2 minutes.
You want to do the cats?
Straight to the cats.
Let's do the cats.
Let's do the cats.
All right.
You know the cat controversy.
Yes.
I understand. I'm very upset that so many people are so surprised and upset because
because the government is...
Because such a ultra right-wing government we have here are doing such a terrible things for human beings in the occupied territories. So with all the respect, the cats is not what I'm worried about. So you were wondering how comes Donald Trump might be the president of Israel, of the U.S.
Whoa.
But hey, but do you wonder how comes Bibi Netanyahu is our prime minister?
No, but I did pack my cat, though. I did. Yeah. Okay,
you
cats.
packed your cat.
Okay.
All right.
Transfer.
Yes. So clearly the web is going crazy for everything that's this cat transfer offer made by Uriel.
That's the only thing I read yesterday. We did touch on this in the beginning of the show, but the fact that they
so now we see this.
The dog. Good job.
Good job.
Yes. Oh my God, that's a cat they're going to send to Temple Mount.
Yes, this
cat is going.
This cat is really going for like. No, I'm cool.
Okay, what is Oprah
This is
saying?
like
transfer for the eggs,
the cats, the potatoes, everybody!
Everybody's getting a car!
This is just...
Yes, my God.
Speaks for itself.
My God. I mean, no, that's Tzipi Livni, that's not me. Tzipi Livni in the opposition.
Tzipi Livni and her cat.
I like the sound you make when you shut up. Okay, 20 seconds, folks. That's all the time we have. Go see Mr. Gaga. It sounds amazing. When we get back, political Instagram. Please stay with us. It's Tal Shalev. Welcome back, I-24 News Morning Edition on this November 3rd, I believe it is. It's the best part of the show because it's the last part of the show. And we are here with a very, very sparkly, shirty Shai Ringo, who is of the Tube magazine and anything you need to know digitally and whatnot. And it's going to be terribly exciting, but after that, we will lead to Tal Shalev, who's also in studio. There we go. Tech, darling, what?
Okay, let's talk about two interesting technologies. The first one is an Israeli technology called Nini Speech.
Nini Speech.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's not that revolutionary, but it's an interesting approach to help people who have stuttered.
Okay. It's been done before, right?
Kind of, but. One of the big problems that people who have who stutter is that they can learn how to overcome a lot of the things they need to do, but when they leave their teacher, they leave the guidance, they go to the world and they
the
go back.
Comes back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they developed really nice tool to help stutter people understand what they need to do in real time.
We have a video. But I think to explain it best before anything else, they also have a Kickstarter clip of it, right?
It's not a Kickstarter, but yes.
So, okay, let's take a look.
Why I can't stop stuttering outside as I do with Michelle. The meeting today with Michelle was helpful, and at the end of the meeting, like she read my thoughts, she introduced me to Nini. This mobile application is your new guide when I'm not around you, Michelle said. Nini automatically detects your stutter occurrences all day long. When you stutter, it reminds you to use the methods we have learned in therapy. It vibrates the bracelet and provides you hints to cope with your stutter. Nini is a fully automatic application and very simple to use. Nini behaves according to the therapy program we set in our meetings. Michelle gave me a big smile and explained that by using Nini, I gain long-term fluency because it trains my brain to use fluency techniques and avoid stuttering at all times and conditions.
Okay, the music is very Hallmark.
Yeah, I wish those videos, those technology companies' videos, wouldn't treat us like little children.
Idiots?
Yeah, like idiots. But the idea.
No, the idea basically is to. It's kind of it's a reminder.
Yeah, but it's a reminder that has a very good voice analogy. It can detect what you are doing and give you the best hint according to your therapist.
Okay.
Which means that it listens to you all day, and when it detects that you're starting to stutter, it will alarm you, it will go beep.
Kind of a customized, specifically, personally customized for your disability.
Yeah, and the big technology is the voice analogy. It can detect exactly what you're going to do, and when you start a sentence, what you need to, if you need to take a breath, if you need. So this is a really cool thing, and it can help a lot of people who have stuttered. 1% of the world population have stuttered.
Yes.
1%.
Even my father.
Yeah.
Seriously. Not many people knew that. Working with your hands is something else.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, let's talk about Jest. Jest is a very cool Kickstarter project that wants to replace our keyboard and mouse. We have a video.
Let's take a look.
A keyboard and mouse don't make sense anymore. It's time to get your hands dirty with Jest. Jest lets you control your computer with your hands.
For example, Photoshop. Adjust the contrast. Ooh, a little less. Okay, now the brightness. Yep, perfect. Save that. Let's take this a little further. Add a logo. Bring it down, lower, a little to the right. Great. If you have 2 of them, you can even type.
We take the raw data from every accelerometer, gyroscope, and magnetometer and pass it through advanced motion processing.
Sometimes your friends can get annoying. Quick hand gesture takes care of that. Just connects to your iOS or Android device, so you can connect it to almost anything, like your lights and your music.
Firstly, I have to say something, Shai, because I mean, it's a cool video, but it's like the most, like geeks are taking over the world. That is entirely the proof of that.
Yeah.
And look at this exciting thing. You know, it is very exciting.
It is very exciting. I don't know if this is the exact thing that will change the way we communicate with our computers. But we need a new way to reconnect with our computer because we have phones today, and virtual reality is going to become a real thing that is going to be in our homes in the next couple of years.
But this to me is just, and maybe I'm an old timer, it's just another step straight towards that chip in our brain that we will like put a computer up by just blinking our eyes.
There are already people who are biohacking, putting chips inside their hands.
Yes, I've had them on the show.
Yeah.
and that's the way, you know, they operate. But this probably is going to create quite a buzz, I'm assuming.
It already is creating quite a buzz. There are small companies, so maybe they'll sell to someone. But at the moment, they have a Kickstarter project who is already funded.
That, I think you need to be as cool as these guys. And because, you know, I'm blindsided by your shirt. It's time to move to Tal Shalev, beautifully dressed Tal Shalev with, sit put, Ringo. This is the Politicians' Instagrams of the week, and what a week that was.
That was a week, and we're going to talk a lot about Halloween and children, 2 of your favorite subjects. We'll start, of course, with the annual White House party on the southern lawn. Hundreds of children come to trick or treat. This year, the president and the first lady didn't dress up, but they did post a video on Instagram.
Okay. Video. Let's take a look.
Hey! Happy Halloween, everybody! Have a great time.
So, the kids came up. One kid caught the president's eye. If we can see the next photo.
Yes, the kid that caught,
well, this is the first photo, and if we can see the next photo on the White House Instagram account, this is the president and little Pope. It's Mini Pope driving a Mini Pope mobile, and it was the president's favorite costume.
Can you fault him?
But look.
My God, that's phenomenal. It's a Mini Pope.
Yes.
It's a Mini Pope, yeah. Pope and Mini-Me. He should be actually traveling next to the Pope. Beautiful, beautiful. And
look at the next photo. That is actually Ella Rhodes. She's the Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes' daughter. She's dressed up as an elephant in the Oval Office, and that is a very cool photo.
And that's a picture that she will schlep with her for the rest of her life.
Probably,
yes, you know that.
Yeah.
And there'll be sessions of psychologists. Why did you love me? Yeah, okay. And
the 2 other guests of honor, of course, at the party, Bo and Sonny. With their doofenganger up ahead of them. But
yes,
not only the White House got into the holiday spirit. Do you know what the Barack Dubs channel is?
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Please.
I love you back. It's close to midnight, and something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moon. Light. You see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream. But terror takes us before you.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah, so the Barack Dubs project basically does mashups to presidential speeches to popular songs. It's amazing. I spend hours there. It's just so much fun.
I gotta get you out. Yes, and
no, you gotta get me to the White House.
Yeah, we gotta get you to the White House. Yes.
Michelle also had fun with Halloween. Look at this photo. This was a Halloween photo shared by the famous Instagram gossip page Baller Alert, which is basically owned by African Americans. These are two Kansas City kids that were caught on camera, and it's not only the outfits, it's also the attitudes, the expressions.
Everything. It's the body language, it's mini Barack. We're like in the mini-me session today.
So the next mini-me is Hillary Clinton's mini-me.
Oh my God.
This is 4-year-old Sullivan Wood, who came to a Clinton rally in Charleston, and she came with suit and pearls and a briefcase, and she was spotted by someone from the campaign. She was taken backstage, and she got this photo, also one she will probably be framing for the rest of her life.
Let's hope she, maybe even right next to it, me and the president. Yes. No, very, very, very cute. And comfortable shoes.
Yes, and comfortable shoes.
And comfortable shoes.
And the Clinton campaign also used the Halloween holiday to try and give try to take some price at the expense of the Republicans. Let's see their vote, the video.
Yes, please.
The failed policies of the past are rising from the grave.
Trump's tax plan follows the same supply-side economic theory Republicans have embraced since the early 1980s. Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul have all proposed similar ideas.
Arguments from a generation ago are back to attack women's health.
Roe v. Wade is not constitutionally solid.
So, ergo should be overturned.
Yes, I defunded Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely, they should not fund Planned Parenthood.
If it comes down to closing the government down or funding Planned Parenthood, what should the Republicans in the Congress do?
They should close the government down.
And just when you thought it was safe for the affordable...
So when Republicans have no ideas, the zombie policies will walk the earth.
They're pretty genius. And I want to say that there's like this beautiful beautiful combination of American politics and the holiday season. Beautiful. Yes.
Once every 4 years.
Exactly.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders also celebrated Halloween. He took his grandchildren for trick-or-treating.
And dressed as himself.
In New Hampshire. He was dressed as himself. But do you know what Babies for Bernie is?
Babies for Bernie? No.
Let's see.
Babies
for Bernie is a new social media trend of parents dressing up and photoshopping their tots as the 74-year-old Bernie Sanders with glasses, white hair, and a hand up in the air. The next photo.
Oh! Very good.
Tagging the photos Babies for Bernie, and it's a nice trend because it started when one of Bernie's supporters wasn't able to attend Sanders' rally because of her newborn son. So she posted a photo of the newborn, and this became viral.
And she started a trend.
So that inspired a lot of Halloween costumes, but of course the Donald. Baby Trump also exists. You're all losers, Baby Trump. And
but it looks like the real guy. This is phenomenal. Baby Trump, yes. Yeah, I think a lot of Trumps, some of my friends in New York dressed up as, I don't remember her name, the clerk in Kentucky, who wouldn't hand out the marriage license to gay couples. So very much in the political tune this week.
Rand Paul.
The man who sleeps on a cot.
He stopped. I don't know if he was coordinated with Hillary Clinton's campaign ad, but he actually stopped at a zombie burger bar at Des Moines, and he said,
"Oh, bad."
He said his costume. Okay, this is a costume. Yes. He dressed up as the $18 trillion national debt. Not so funny.
No, not so funny. Like, if you're already going to do that, then cover yourself with, paper or something like that, not just on the thingy. And
Mike Huckabee decided not to celebrate Halloween, but he spent the weekend in a very other traditional way. Let's see.
Okay. No! Shai, you would never do that, right? No.
Well, the pheasant hunting season is beginning in Iowa.
I forget.
4 GOP candidates, Jindal, Cruz, and Santorum, and Huckabee all went to this annual event that takes place at Steve King, who is a congressman from Iowa. And Huckabee joked, if it flies, it dies. He says he loves to hunt ducks, deer, and turkey.
That's what I want as my leader.
But this was only the 3rd time he's ever hunted pheasants.
So only the 3rd.
Only
he's
the
really
3rd.
Quite behind. I do think. Wow!
It's not like they're flying in the nature. They put them in cages and then they release them for them.
Exactly.
This is. You're not that of a hunter.
Don't tell the voters. Don't tell the constituents.
Okay, we're moving along.
Okay.
Yeah, don't tell me.
We're going to end with a very nice note. Harry, Harry,
the single prince.
The single prince took a one-day trip to the United States to promote the 2016 Invictus Games, which is a international tournament that he founded last year for wounded servicemen. The first games were in London last year, and the next one will be in Orlando, Florida next year. So he was joined by Michelle and Jill Biden, Joe Biden's wife. They joined the Royal Highness, and Harry did say,
if it was actually the other prince, he would be joined by the president, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes.
But
okay.
wait.
Yeah, wait.
Okay. Yes. Harry served on the front line in Afghanistan. Right. That is why he has initiated this whole issue. Michelle had a joke at the wheelchair basketball game. She said, "Okay, ladies, Prince Harry is here. Don't act like you don't notice." And as you can see, Harry brought along his beard.
Yeah, what do we think of the beard?
It's still there. I like it.
You like the beard?
I like the beard. I like the beard. I like the beard because it is probably the Queen doesn't like it, so that's why I like it.
He is, after all, the man who, during Halloween, many years ago, dressed up as a Nazi.
And he did meet with the president.
He did? Okay.
We will see the photo, sure enough.
Of course.
He did meet with the president. They had a very good discussion, of course. And, Harry is emerging as his mother's son.
As his mother's son.
Yes.
Yeah.
The charmer of the British royal
He's got the Diana
family.
thing going. We've got to leave you with royals, folks. And that was it for I-24 News Morning Edition. Prince Harry's still single, so is Tal Shalev. I'm making the connection. But tune in tomorrow morning for another edition, I-24 News Morning Edition, and stay with the channel for the news for the rest of the day.